All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Really excited for today and to introduce you guys to today's guest. We have Jerome Braggs, who is in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And we're excited to talk to Jerome today and share some awesome energy with you guys. Jerome is an intuitive healer and a spiritual teacher. And when I went onto his Instagram page, I could see how much he enjoyed just sharing love and light with his audience and his passion for helping people heal and self-love and all sorts of awesome things that we'll talk about here. And Jerome actually was referred to me by a previous guest, Leslie, now that I remember. And, it's always cool when I have guests who refer other guests. They always end up being really fun conversations. So without further ado from me, I want to introduce you guys to Jerome. And Jerome, if you can share with the audience so they're more familiar with you, who you are, what you do, why you do it, all that good stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show, Noel. It's an honor. My name is Jerome Braggs. I am an intuitive healer and teacher. And what all that means really is I teach spiritual seekers how to heal themselves, both their lives and their bodies, and how to live really well and delicious lives through the practice of self-love. And I do that because I know that loving ourselves is our greatest medicine and our greatest transformative agent. And when we love ourselves, all is well and all is coming. And when we don't, it's not. And I do this work because learning to love myself literally saved my life. It literally healed my body from 2 terminal diseases. And it also transformed my life into something more miraculous and more delicious than I could have ever imagined possible before. And I know that it's literally the solution and the medicine for everything we're facing. So that's why I teach it, and that's why I do it. That's why my work is really founded upon the lessons I learned about how to love yourself, what it actually is, what it really takes, what it doesn't take, that I learned in my own healing journey. And I share that with other people.
I love it. I love where this conversation is starting off. And one thing about, our physical bodies, we bring them with us everywhere we go. And the energy and frequency and vibration that we carry with us from this moment and this moment and this moment. What I've learned about life, and I know you're aware of this, Jerome, and for the audience, is as we get older and older, we really become very habitual as far as how we treat ourselves and how we think. And that could be, if we're not loving ourselves, it could be very detrimental because, if we are in the habit of thinking critical thoughts, and I've been here before for sure, we're thinking lots of critical thoughts about myself or others. The longer that we do it as time goes, it just becomes, it's very unlikely that tomorrow we're just going to wake up and just not be critical of ourselves or others. It's going to continue on until we can shine light on it and be aware of it. And then we can start to do something about it. And that's where your work comes in. I know, Jerome, and it's awesome. I love what you're doing already. So for you, you mentioned healing yourself, which is really one of my favorite topics of life is health, because without that, what do we really have? I mean, everything else is kind of doesn't really matter much if we don't have the health part. So I'm curious about that with you. As far as the healing of yourself and anything that you're willing to share with the audience, because I know there's people listening that whether it be chronic illness or disease, or just seem to find themselves getting sick a lot, whether it be common cold or flu. This all ties in, as you know, and I'm curious to hear what you're sharing as far as that goes.
So a little bit about my healing journey. It started on January 1st of 2004. And I had checked into the hospital with what I thought was the flu. And I was hoping to just kind of do a quick little emergency room visit to get some medicine for some flu symptoms that I was experiencing, and then, go home so that I could go back to work. And ended up instead being diagnosed with kidney failure, pneumonia, pancreatitis, anemia, a fluid-packed lung, a parasite in my stomach. And if all that wasn't delicious enough already, I was also diagnosed with AIDS. And the doctors gave me, at that time, they gave me 7 days to live.
Wow.
And on my deathbed, I kind of had I went through what I now know, having worked with several people across the world, at all stages of health, but particularly people who have been diagnosed with terminal illnesses in their last days. Um, what is very common is most people experience what's called a life review. We also experience a life review when we transition to the other side, and that's another topic. But there's a life review that happens right before you die, and you kind of review your life. And that was kind of what happened with me. My life kind of flashed before my eyes, and I reviewed it. And I had questions, which were, was I happy with the way I had lived? Was I ever truly, really fully expressive of myself in this life? Had I really deposited into the world the intentions and the dreams that I had, felt that I was here to deposit into the world? And had I really expressed to the people that I love the most, how I really felt about them? And did I really love myself? Like, did I really feel good about this one, experience of being that I had on the planet? And as I began to have this review, I realized on my deathbed that the answer to all of those questions was no. That I wasn't really happy. I wasn't really doing what I really wanted to do. I had never really fully authentically been myself. I was hiding many aspects of myself, particularly around my sexuality and my spirituality. So I had intuitive gifts back then, but I was, raised in a very religious culture and environment, and I didn't feel like I would belong with, those things. So I suppressed a lot of that. Um, and so I had never really fully been my intuitive gifts. I really was never really fully expressive of my sexuality, being same gender loving. Um, I had never really, lived my dreams. I was working a 9 to 5 job, which I knew probably since I was about 10 years old that was not me. That wasn't what I was, here to do. I had other dreams that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a spiritual teacher. I had all these things I wanted to do, and I wasn't doing any of that. And I had a really hard problem, really challenge expressing how I really felt to the people that I really loved. And so, I was realizing as I was on my deathbed that although I was already on a spiritual path by this time. I was 23 years old, and I was already for years on a spiritual path by this time. So I understood that I was a soul. I understood that my soul never died and that death wasn't an end. So I wasn't afraid of dying. But as I had this life review, what I realized was that I had never lived, and that I was getting ready to die, never having really lived, never have really ever been myself and lived the life that was true to me. And although I wasn't scared of dying, I was horrified of dying like that. And so I made the decision that I wasn't going to die, that wasn't going to be the case. And so I threw everything I knew about creation and manifestation and healing at that time, and everything about the law of attraction, basically. Like, I believed that we could create, our realities, that we were souls that create our realities. We could manifest what we want. But before this, experience, I had used that knowing to, get a parking space in front of the mall when I was running late for the movies, or to find $5 in the couch when I, needed something to eat, or to get a date, on a Saturday night when I wanted to go out, something like that. But I knew if this was really real, if I was really a soul that created my reality, I was going to have to create a miracle, and I was going to have to do it within 7 days. So I threw everything I knew about it at this situation. And within 3 months, I was put on dialysis. By the way, although the doctors kept saying that they weren't going to be able to save my life, they were trying to prolong it. And so, I was put on dialysis. There were a lot of things the doctors were doing. They were telling me I need to get my affairs in order. But in about 3 months' time, I fully healed. I fully recovered, and um, I was taken off of dialysis. My kidneys were functioning again. They couldn't find HIV or AIDS in my system anymore. All of the other illnesses had disappeared, and my body was very healthy. And I thought, I knew everything there is to know about manifestation. Like, I was being called a miracle child. I had proven this was real. I was experiencing well-being, and I thought I knew what well-being and manifestation really took, until I found myself back in that same hospital a year and a half later, with the exact same diagnosis to the T, not just to the T, but literally to the T cell count.
Wow.
And instead of 7 days to live this time, I had 48 hours. And on my deathbed, when the doctors left, they were rushing because they were going to call my family to get a red eye flight because they thought literally I had about 48 hours to live. And on my deathbed this time, instead of having this life review, I had a question. And I knew that if all of this was happening in my body, that again, like this, like to the T, that every single illness had returned like that. And I was to the T cell count, the same situation, that this was a message, that this wasn't some fluke, this wasn't a coincidence, that this was a message, that this was my soul trying to get my attention through the health of my body. And so on my deathbed, I really posed this question, what is it that you really want me to know? And also, what does it really take to heal? Because obviously I thought I knew and I don't. And not only heal, and I don't want to just survive this time. I want to thrive. I want to really live well, and I want to live a really delicious life, like a really happy life, a really fulfilled life, a life that is really me. Like, what does that really take? And after I said that out loud, that's when I had what some are calling a near-death experience. I can't necessarily say I died because nobody else was in the room at that time. I particularly say I crossed over into the dimension of oneness, because that's when I started to feel one with everything. Like right after I said that, I was literally on the hospital bed with IVs in my arm in immense pain, but the pain went away. I couldn't tell the difference anymore between my hand on the bed, like between the bed and my hand. I couldn't tell where the wall ended and where my body began. I couldn't tell, like everything was me. It just felt like everything in the room was me. And then I saw a light that was probably the light, and this is kind of hard to explain, but I saw like it was the brightest light I've ever seen, but it wasn't like hurting my eyes, but it also was the darkest dark I had ever seen at the same time. It's kind of like this dual thing happening. And that's when I heard a voice, and I immediately recognized that voice as the voice of Source. It sounded like me, but it wasn't the neurotic me. It wasn't the me that had a lot of shame and fear. It was this very centered, very like this me that was in the center of all being well. And it said to me two things. It said, one, that I knew a lot about how to make things happen. I knew how to push them. I knew how to force them. I knew how to, try and manifest my way into things. But I didn't know anything about how to make good happen for me, right? But I didn't know anything about how to let good happen to me. And that was literally supposed to be the order of life, that life was just supposed to be good. And I didn't have to make it, I had to let it. And that I didn't know anything about that. But the way to do that is to love myself. And that was also the way, this is the second thing that was said, that was also the way to heal. The loving ourselves was the healing, the way, the path to healing everything, not just illness in the body, but any type of dysfunction or suffering or pain in the life. That loving myself was the path. And I didn't know anything about that, but I was going to learn. And that my life, once I learned it, was going to be about teaching it. And so after that kind of conversation where I was told basically that, I'm here to learn how to love myself, and loving myself will be the healing that I was seeking. And it would also be the doorway that opened my life up to just good pouring in, and abundance of receiving instead of always trying to seek and force. I came back into my body, into the consciousness of my body, and into kind of the delineation between, this body and the rest of the physical world. And I knew in that moment I had the big, I had been given the big aha moment. I had been given the big wake up moment. Here it is. Am I going to take this what I was told, or am I going to be the same? Kind of, am I going to take the red pill, or am I going to take the blue pill? And I knew that one of those paths was me being the same. And I knew I was going to die like that. Like if I stayed the same, I was going to die. I was not going to continue in this life. But if I took the path of loving myself, then, that was going to be the healing. But I was also scared because unlike, a lot of people who have near death experiences who they come back into the body and everything is healed for them. Mine kind of wasn't. It wasn't. I was just kind of given this roadmap a little bit, but not, given the entire experience of it. And I was afraid because I knew that I was being asked to do something, but I didn't know how to do it. And I also knew that in order to do this, I was going to have to become a different person, and that this person was going to have to die. And I didn't know who that new person was going to be. But I knew that that was what was being asked of me. And so I just made the commitment anyway, because I wanted to live. I said, I'm going to do this. I am going to surrender my life over to self-love. And I want to learn deeply, not quickly. And yeah, I offer my life over. Now, at the time, again, I was also scared because at the time I thought my purpose was to be a famous singer. I was going to be the next big, Grammy Award winning singer and actor out there. And I knew this journey was calling me into something different. And so, but I surrendered because I wanted to live. So I just surrendered it over. And that surrendering and that offering of my life began a multi-year journey into a multi-year and mystical journey into the healing and transformative power of self-love. I learned a lot about what it is and what it isn't. Mainly that a lot of what we learned about it, excuse my language, has been bullshit. And what it really is and what it really takes, and not just what it really is and how it really takes, but that our entire health and our entire life depends on it. The health of our bodies and the function of our lives is literally directly correlated to our relationship to love. And so that was what happened. And what I learned literally transformed my life into something. Everything in my life got better. Everything in my life that was unwell was healed. And everything that all of my dreams, even more than I could have dreamed of, began to come true in a way that I didn't have to force, that I didn't have to push, that I didn't have to vision board, that I didn't have to manifestation tool into practice. It was just, my life became about loving myself, and that alone opened doors for me that were miraculous and beyond imagination.
Wow, Jerome, that that's the most inspiring story I've ever done on this podcast I've ever heard. And there's been a lot of inspiring stories with the way that you shared that, and like the whole time I'm just receiving appreciation. I'm feeling appreciation for you, and want to share with you what I know to be true when it comes to just love. Because every time you said self-love or just love, period, um, I wasn't thinking about the physical shell just only. I was thinking about, when you mention love, I'm thinking of God, universe, all that is, source, spirit, the force is what some have called it. There's so many different names, and that is who and what all of us truly are. And this is what allowed me to, as far as my journey goes, once I started looking at humanity and all of us walking around in these physical shells as not just the Noel that you see or the Jerome that you see or any of you out there that we see, but looking at you as having our own human experience with this love, this love energy, this God energy, this source energy flowing to and through, and that's who truly all of us are, and just living out different expressions of it as Jerome, as Noel, as whoever you are out there. Meaning that even though we've had different life experiences and there's different things that we love to do, and we have, there's just different things that we're drawn to while we're in this life experience. In the depths of who we are in our core, we're all this same non-physical energy. And that allows me to not only love the power and potential that I have, but also be humble about it, because there's no special breed of humans. So if I see, Jerome heal himself, then I know that I can heal myself. Or if I see, Kathy out there create something awesome, or attract something awesome in their life, relationship, financial, goal, career, whatever, then I know I can too, because Kathy is flowing and Jerome is flowing that same non-physical energy that I truly am as well. I'm just flowing it as Noel in this shell, in this incarnation. And so it gives me so much compassion and appreciation for all of humanity, because I mean, wasn't always aware of this, but once I became fully aware of that, then it's just like, I love stories like yours because I just appreciate them so much. That's why I do the podcast, because I like to hear other people's life experience, and at the same time, I'm only viewing you through the the energy of who and what all of us truly are, and I'm just learning about a new life experience, which yours is awesome. I would love to hear what, I mean, it's obviously now, because I think it's amazing, and I can relate to you also as far as feeling like you were gonna be a professional Grammy Award winning singer. I always thought I was gonna be an amazing like professional baseball player, and it wasn't like a pipe dream. It was like from the time I was 2 to the time I was 21, I was accelerated. I was
Mm-hmm.
normally the best one of my age, and then all of a sudden had a major shoulder injury that that was like the beginning of the end for me. And I tried to keep playing until I was 23. That threw me into like a depression in my early 20s, because I was like, this is all I've ever thought I was going to do. So what do I do now? And I needed that to be able to start to become aware of all of this stuff. And it wasn't like all roses and berries and peaches and rainbows after that. Like it was just, there was still a lot of process of becoming more aware and understanding who and what all of us truly are. But would love to know from you, Jerome. And if I ever say anything that you want to like hit on, please do. Like I just flow from this energy of just appreciating. But yeah, what I'm really curious from you is when it comes to like what self-love is, because you're teaching it now, which is awesome, because now you're able to, from your life experience and your example, best teacher for any of us is for all of our examples that we're living. But then you've taken it a step further and actually are helping people be able to do this, which what more important work is there really? I mean, it's everything else is fleeting. This is the only thing that really allows us to really enjoy this life experience and to be able to thrive. What does it mean to you, the self-love and all these things?
Yeah, so I want to touch on some things that it's the beautiful question, and I want to touch on something you said before to really ground it in it in the beginning. Is love is actually source energy. It is God energy. It is the soul's energy. It is what our are made of and what they're made for. And it is literally, the essence of creation, of all creation. But more importantly, before we go out big, it is the essence of you. It is what in me. It is what we are literally made of and what we're made for. So you can interchange love with the soul. You can interchange love with, some people call it life force energy. You can interchange it with God. But that's literally what it is. It is the energy of your being. And so when you understand it like that, there are a few things when I began in my journey, there's really three things to understand what that energy feels like. And so the energy first feels like it's a feeling of all is well. So it's a feeling of well-being, if you will. And so that's a multifaceted energy, by the way. Love is a multifaceted energy. We've been taught about it as if it's this one facet, which is really affection, right? So what we're mostly taught about in our human lives in many different cultures is love is affection. So I care for you, I want to be around you, or I'm attracted to you, or something like that. And that element is love. But love is much bigger than that, and it's a multifaceted energy. And so one of those facets feels like well-being. Well-being is also a multifaceted energy, because well-being feels like freedom. It feels like ease. It feels like joy. And so those aspects, it feels like safety and empowerment, right? So but the first piece of love, and this is a little bit of what I felt when I was in the dimension of oneness, or in the dimension of unconditional love as well, is that all is well. And if you talk to a lot of people who've had near death experiences, they will say, like, when they cross over, the first feeling they feel is this immense feeling of like everything is what, like, it's just well-being. It's well-being. It abounds. It's everywhere. There's nothing but well-being that exists, right? If If you read, and I've read countless other stories to kind of get an understanding of my own and talk to many other people. And this is kind of a salient experience of people who've had a near death experience. When they cross over to the other side, they have this immense feeling of well being. And so, love is one of the aspects and facets of love is this well being. It's all is well. The next aspect of it is all is worthy, meaning all is appreciated and all is accepted, no matter what. No matter what color, no matter what sexuality, no matter what gender, expression, no matter what nationality, no matter what you did in your past or what you didn't do in your past or what you're doing in your current moment, all of you is appreciated and accepted. Like that is love is worthiness. And that's what worthiness is. There is nothing wrong. Everything is appreciated, everything is accepted. And then the last piece that love feels like is it feels like, and I said this, I think when I was telling you when I heard the voice, it feels like you. It feels like the truest version of you. And so when we're talking about we ask me what is self-love, what does it mean to love yourself? Loving yourself literally means to get in tune with the love energy that you are and to nourish that energy. Another word for self-love is self-alignment. You're literally getting an alignment with the source energy that you are, right? And doing whatever nourishes and keeps that alignment going. So you're getting in tune with a feeling of all is well. You're getting in tune with the feeling of well-being. You're getting in tune with the feeling of worthiness. You're getting in tune with the feeling of being you, of being the most real you. So that means, that loving yourself is about appreciating and accepting yourself. It's about living a lifestyle that allows you to feel free and at ease. It's about living a life that nourishes who you really are and not suppresses or hides or edits or rejects any aspect of you. This is what loving ourselves really is. It's not just, getting a massage when you've run yourself, to the end of your internal resources at the end of the day. That's actually not loving yourself, because you don't feel well when you're stressed and you're running yourself into the ground in the first place, right? That's why self-care is not always self-love. This is another thing that's kind of I learned in my journey. A lot of times we correlate self-care with self-love, and it's actually not always the case. A lot of times we're practicing self-care out of not loving ourselves. Out of it's a result from not loving ourselves. When living a life that makes you feel a sense of well-being, thinking thoughts and taking actions that make you feel a sense of worthiness and that affirm your worthiness, and that living a lifestyle that really nourishes and expresses who you really are. That's loving yourself. Self-care can definitely support that, but a lot of times we do self-care when we are rejecting those things, when we be living a life that when you get a massage or you're drinking this green juice, not because you really love your body and you appreciate your body, but you're drinking this green juice because you're afraid that if you don't get this green juice in, you're not going to be healthy. And that's actually not a loving thought. The loving thought is my body is a one with source. It is perfect and healthy as it is. And I'm drinking this green juice because I like the taste of green juice, and two, I want to support whatever my body wants to do in this reality, right? I want to support, and I want to support it for as long as it needs, not because I believe that I can't be healthy without that. Like that's this is very different, and that was a big learning that I had, because I had all of those types of thoughts. I used to think, you know, and this is when I really learned a lot about how loving ourselves is the key to health. I used to think that if you weren't a vegan, and not even just vegan, but alkaline vegan, by the way, if you weren't alkaline vegan, I couldn't heal myself, and I was not going to be healthy. But my body was asking for something different than that. And so I had this war going on where, I had these beliefs that said the only way to be healthy was, to be this in this little small box. of being alkaline vegan. But my body was like, you need to eat some fish. And the medical tests were coming back and saying, here I am doing all the cleanses, all the detoxes. I'm following everybody's wellness, advice. You need to eat this way. But my body was asking for something different. And when I finally just trusted my body and I listened to my body and I did what it was asking for, and I stopped putting, all these restrictions, which were basically, a lot of our nutrition, by the way, is based on fear. And so I had this fear that this was the only way to do something. When I let go of that, my body just began to get healthy, like, left and right, just leaps and bounds, miraculously so. Right. And again, this is another aspect of how, believing, following external information over internal insight is another way of not loving ourselves. Right? We're not trusting our own inner wisdom. We're not believing that our wisdom is enough, that our own internal guidance is enough. We're believing that somebody else and giving somebody else our power outside of ourselves and saying, here, you know better for me than I do. You know better for me. Your version of God knows better than my internal God. And so I had to learn like all of these different things, but that is basically what loving ourselves really is. It's getting in tune with the feeling of all being well, all being worthy about ourselves, and living a life that really nourishes and expresses who we really are.
Wow, that is such a powerful. You guys rewind and listen to everything that Jerome has said in this episode already, regardless of what we say after this. Like, listen to Jerome's parts again. And people have heard me say this before, Jerome. I have one addiction in this life, and it's how good I can feel. Like, how good can my frequency feel internally? And if I am going to go get a massage, I'm going to feel amazing already right now. And then I'm going to see how amazing can this massage intensify this feeling that I already have of feeling good. And it's just, I'm human too. And I always make sure that I share this with people, because once I've become aware of just frequency and energy, and it's always in the moment, which makes things so much simpler. I don't have to think, how have I been all day today, or how am I going to be tomorrow? It's how am I feeling? What's my frequency? What's my vibe? What's my energy right here and now? Not making myself wrong for it, because that'll only make me feel worse. However, if I'm aware of it, then I have the power of choice. That's all I care about for humanity, is just the awareness, which you're giving so much of right now. And I have a question about what you were just sharing. Everything that Jerome just said, I'm just like, if you guys are watching the YouTube, I just nodded my head the whole time that Jerome was sharing that, because a lot of the things, when he mentioned self-care versus self-love, a lot of the things that we do for self-care is trying to adjust the external so that we can feel the way that we want to feel. So we're trying to manipulate the external. Let me get a massage so I can feel good. Let me drink the green juice because it's gonna take this cold that I have away, because I've been stressed all day. But if I drink this cold buster from Jamba Juice, like this will balance it out. That's not really how it works. So I mean, I love everything that you just said, and it's awesome how I've never heard anyone, I've never spoken to anyone that has had the near-death experience and got the awareness, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, I've heard as far as, and I love how you said you've talked to other people and they described it as well-being. But the fact that you had lived all the life that you had lived, I mean, I think you mentioned you were 23, 24 at that time, and actually were able to apply it. You really didn't have a choice to apply it, but I mean, trying to apply something when you're scared of. See, the thing that really benefited you that I see is you had the understanding where you weren't fearing death, because you understood that our souls. That makes it tough. Like when people get diagnosis, they're so fearful of death that it's just tough to maneuver from that space, because the fear is such a heavy internal energy. That's not what we're describing when it comes to being in tune with source energy. Fear that's nowhere near. So that helped you a lot, having that awareness. And we just lost, like, I mean, my mind is all over the place. I'm just flowing out whatever flows out. But we just lost like a global icon, and in the U.S., like really, was heavy energy. And as soon as I heard it, I went to the gym, and someone told me at the gym, And I'm so appreciative to be aware of what I'm aware of when it comes to death and dying, because I'm human too. So I love, like, Kobe inspired me so much in so many different ways. And so, I felt the sadness too, like, dang, I'm not going to get to hear him do any more speeches at all. And then his daughter died as well. I'm like, wow, that's sad. And then at the same time, immediately I'm flowing appreciation to where Kobe is now, because we can connect with anyone that crosses over if we just connect to the frequency where they are now. And I get the chills every time. Like, I got the chills then, and I was like, I have to go record a video and just share this with humanity. And I didn't do it right away. I just let the day unfold. And, the whole day, it was like, I see something on the TV talking about it, and it's like, damn, it's sad. I mean, it's still now. It's just like, damn, I wish Kobe and, his daughter was still around, but then I could still appreciate. And I know that was part of what, and this is something that I know to be true. And I mean, we could go into this or not, but I know that before we come here, like Kobe, I know this to be true. He knew that his life was going to be to this point, and that what him leaving now, his family that is here and the people that are here are going to have a different life experience that is a part of their journey as well, because he is no longer here in the physical. So, I mean, it sucks. Yeah, we all want Kobe here, but there's things that at work that we understand before we incarnate, that, we don't have to understand here in the physical what's going on, but we know that everybody is going to have a different experience now, because it's all part of the journey. I just said a lot, but what you just described is awesome.
Yeah, I want to touch on two things. Well, one, really quickly, you know, as an intuitive, and one of my intuitive gifts is mediumship. So one of the things that taught me about love was one of the aspects of my journey in the beginning was my mediumship gift and my channeling gift opened. And through that process, I learned a lot. So I was learning a lot about love, and particularly by speaking to souls on the other side, because I used to work as a medium for people. So I would connect people with their loved ones on the other side. And instead of, like, they would do the regular conversations where they would, tell them something about their lives and make sure the person understood that they were still, like alive, not physically, but that life still goes on. It doesn't end, that they're okay, that they're still with them, that they love them, that they see them. And they would offer them whatever healing help they needed for their life, or at the time. But they would also talk about what the soul really is. And this was what was different, very different in a lot of my mediumship readings, because the one thing I teach people is that with your intuitive gifts, which we all have, but usually the intuitive gifts that open for you in the beginning are going to be the ones that most help you heal yourself, the ones that most help you return to your truth and become more embodied of the love energy that you are. And for me, that was mediumship at the time. Even though I never wanted to be a medium, I never wanted that. That was not something I was asking for. But that, talking to souls on the other side, helped me understand some things about what the soul is, why the soul chooses to come here, and what's most important for the soul in life. And I learned a lot about that. And one thing I learned, and this is kind of because you spoke about this before, that with Kobe's passing recently, is that it's not necessarily the length of life, it's the quality. And so if you had a very bright life, meaning you were yourself, you were fully yourself, you manifested the joys that you wanted to experience, that you felt your worthiness, and you were not disconnected from love on this planet. If you had that, then it's from the soul's perspective, this experience in this body, may be complete. And so it wants something else. So, and if you look at it, that's one thing, and I don't do, a lot of mediumship readings anymore. I just use my gifts to help people heal themselves. But, when I tune into that experience with Kobe, Kobe burned very bright, very quickly. The biggest souls on the planet get the biggest lessons usually, and they start soon. They start earliest. And so he was definitely a big soul. Not that, that term is not really, it's the best term that I can have from my own consciousness, but our souls aren't different sizes or anything like that. It's just the impact and the impact that they may have in the physical world as far as that goes. So he made a large impact in the world, and he, stayed very true to who he was. And he was centered in his worthiness, and he was aligned. He was very well aligned, which is why he was able to manifest so many things and so many big things, and so easily and so quickly. And from his perspective, he was like, I got this life, now to the next one. Got this one. Now, I've checked off all my big checks here, my big check marks. Now to the next one. And that's really a big, when anyone passes on, um, it's always a message to us, not about fearing death, because death, again, is nothing to fear at all. It's just like, it's literally like a opening of another doorway in the house. It's literally like you're just going through another doorway in your home. But it's for you to take some self introspection and say, what is it I really want from my life now? What do I really want from my life? What is their passing helping me become more aware of that I want for my own life? So that's the first thing I want to say is, what, you don't have to worry about Kobe, because I promise you Kobe is fine. More than fine. As a matter of fact, the word fine is not even near his experience right now. He is in bliss, and he is still available, and he is reaching out to his loved ones. I can promise you that. The concern now needs to be, what is his message for your own life? And then the other thing I wanted to touch on really quickly was about the correlation between love and health. So the physical body, this is something I learned in my journey. So the physical body was created by the soul to house the energy of itself. So our body are literally like little meat vessels to house the energy of the soul. And the energy of the soul is love. But when it is not filled with the energy of the soul, it literally doesn't have the energy that it needs and that it was made for to run well. Very much like a car and the gas in the car. So you can drive your car, you can do it, it can perform well, you can do wheelies, you can do, the top speeds on the highway, whatever you can floss, you can do whatever you want in your car. But if you run it too low on fuel, it starts to break down. If it's run, and it will send you a little light, it will send you a signal. That's what our gas lights in our car are. The gas light comes on when it says, hey, your car is running a little too low on fuel. You need to stop what you're doing and go fuel your car up. If you ignore that signal, your car is just going to go and break down. It's not going to function anymore. This is what illness exactly is. Illness is not a punishment. It's not a coincidence. Illness is an indicator. It is an indicator that we are running low on love energy, which is the soul energy. You don't have enough of the energy of your soul in you, whether because you're ashamed, you've been living too much in shame, which disconnects you from love. When you feel like something's not enough about you, something's wrong with you somehow, that disconnects you from worthiness. You can't feel ashamed and not enough and feel worthy at the same time, right? So you're withholding love from yourself. If you have a lot of fear in your life or stress in your life, you're disconnected from love, the aspect of love where the all is well, right? And if you're not being yourself, right? If you're suppressing some aspect of yourself or hiding some aspect of yourself, whether you're doing it because you feel like, it's not safe to be that, whether you're doing it because you feel like if you are really yourself, you won't make the money you want, or you won't get the accolades you want, or whatever it is. But if you're suppressing some aspect of yourself, if you are not, if you're not feeling worthy and enough, and if you're not feeling a sense of well-being, whether you're stressed or you're afraid, you are draining your body of love. What drains your soul, what drains your spirit, drains your body, period. And so that's what was happened to me. That's what I learned. That's why I manifested the illnesses. I didn't create them. There's a difference between manifestation and creation. Creation is something you consciously intend. It's something you consciously prefer. Manifestation is just what happens with your energy. This is a dimension of reflection. So as within, so without. So if you have a low, if you're disconnected from love, your life is gonna be disconnected. It's gonna feel disconnected from love. It's not because you're being punished, but just because you're being reflected. And so I had manifested the illnesses I had because I had been so drained of love. I had lived a life where I felt like I wasn't attractive enough because I wasn't thin. I lived a life felt like I wasn't good enough and I wasn't lovable enough because I was attracted to the same gender. I felt like I didn't belong and I wasn't enough because, I had intuitive gifts. I was always afraid, that I wasn't going to get what I want or that something was going to happen to me or that I wasn't safe in the world. So I never felt at ease. I never felt a sense of well-being. And I wasn't myself. I was hiding myself. I was pretending to be, something I wasn't, which was, I was pretending that I didn't have intuitive gifts. I was pretending that I wasn't attracted to the same gender. I was suppressing parts of myself and compartmentalizing parts of myself. And all of that was doing was it was withholding love energy from flowing through me. And my body cannot be well when it doesn't have love within it. It cannot, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, your body's health was literally built upon the amount of love energy that you have within you. And so if you're sick, it's not because your body's betraying you. It's your body speaking to you and it's saying it's time to stop how you're living, how you think about yourself, how you think about life, and how the lifestyle that you're living, and change all of that to something that charges and nourishes you with love instead of takes it away from you. And that's literally what healing is about. Healing is literally, like, we have all these definitions, but what healing really is this the process and the journey you take to return yourself to the love energy that you are. Healing is literally the return to love. That's literally what it is. The more you do that, the more you're going to heal. The more you heal your relationships, the more you heal your relationship with money. The more it's all about how saturated you are with the feeling that all is well, all is worthy, and the energy of you being yourself. And so I wanted to touch on those two things, before we ended with this, because those are really important. That was what my healing journey was really about, was learning how do I saturate my body with love, and how do I stop draining it? How do I stop draining myself from love? How do I stop the shameful thoughts? How do I stop the fearful thoughts? How do I stop suppressing and hiding myself? How do I stop, being a doormat and not, standing in my own power? How do I stop, not being myself and fully express who I am in this world? And learning how to do that literally healed everything.
What Jerome is highlighting, and it's the lesson of life, the awareness of life, is this is already who all of us truly are. And so it's not like we have to try to be this love. We just have to, and he just highlighted it so beautifully right there at the end. We just have to stop blocking it with all of the other things that we do to ourselves. The not feeling worthy, and the I'm not enough, and all of these things that, we're just getting in the way of the flow. Because when we remove all of those things, that's who we truly are. So it's not like it'd be so much more difficult if we had to like try to be something that we're not. Like, we just have to be who we truly are, and you just have to become aware. And there's certain things for all of us. And I could talk to you for hours, Jerome. We're gonna have to do a part two. We're gonna do a part two of this if you're willing, because I'm gonna run out of time, and especially I'm getting inspired to share these things, because in fact, I would love for you to be able to do a part two with me, because this part one is, now that you have in the audience, now that you have the awareness, and this is the only reason I do any of these podcasts, is to open up awareness. And then I enjoy the different guests have different tools to just help with the process, because awareness gives us all a choice. And for me, what I needed, because I became aware of this stuff, but what I needed to stop being critical of myself, because that was my big block, or others, just talking trash. Like, I grew up in competitive sports, and we were always competing, and I was hard on myself. Like, if I had a bad game, like, everybody knows, just don't be around Noel, because he's just miserable human. Like, and and you're gonna have a lot of bad games in the sport that I played, because it was just a difficult sport. And then, critical of others, because I'm used to talking trash to the teammates and everybody. And so that carried out into the real world, where If somebody did something that I felt was not proper, and you guys, you've all done this, then immediately I'm like, maybe not verbally assaulting them. That was never my vibe. But even mentally, it's just like that could affect my whole energy because someone decided to speed past me in traffic. Just something simple, you know, and it's just like, you know, you could have hit me or hit my car, but, you know, all these things. And so it took, because this is a blind spot for me. So what it took for me was to get into a practice of meditation and to really ask God, universe, all that is, to show me what were the blind spots that I couldn't see. Because I knew that there were certain days where my energy was just off. And it was like, I would wake up in the morning and sometimes, and it would just be like, not that excited for the day. And I couldn't pinpoint it. And a lot of it was just the critical nature that I had of myself and of others. That was a big one. And then when I started asking for answers, and then that was shown to me as, now it's not unconscious anymore, now it's conscious. Now, again, I'll tell myself quick, if I even have one critical thought of myself or others, stop it, Noel. And that's not who you are. That just doesn't happen anymore. I've just had the habit of this. And when it comes to wellness, I notice quick. I don't know if it's, I don't know the science of this. I do understand that the body is producing a few million brand new cells per second. And those, if we're stressed, they're going to be a match to that. And if we're, you know, connected to love, then they're going to be wellness cells. So I understand how this process is happening the whole time, which helped me a ton. If I notice myself being stressed for a few minutes, don't even let it be an hour, because I'm so used to feeling this wellness, like my body will immediately show me indicators and symptoms. Like my nose will start running, I'll start sneezing, like I'll be like, shit. Like it was just like, it doesn't take days for me because my body's like, what's this? What's this? I'm just not used to it. So, and I appreciate it. I remind myself that my natural state is wellness. And if I need to rest and, you know, just sleep, because I know that that's why rest is important, the doctors share, because your body's not stressed out when you're resting. Your body is being able to produce new cells. But then we wake back up, a lot of times as human beings, we pick right back off where we left yesterday as far as what we were stressed and worried about. So I would love to know some of the tools, but I have another appointment at 5 minutes and I don't know how I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So I would love to do a part 2 with you. That was something you said that was very important. What we've talked about is the awareness, and what I teach others is the integration. You know, I learned the 5 paths of self-love, which are the 5 kind of paths that you take, or practices that you take. They're really paths that you take to return yourself to love energy, or return yourself to alignment, however you want to say that. I would love to talk to you about that, because that's really, awareness is one piece, but the piece that transforms everything is integration, and the practice of it and what it actually looks like.
Absolutely.
You know, we just talked about what it is, but you know, the next conversation we can say what it actually takes.
Yeah, because what we just talked about has now given awareness, which now gives everyone choice. However, it would be a disservice to humanity to not let Jerome share what, or some integration. Like I couldn't do that to you guys in the audience. In fact, Jerome, it won't even be a part 2. Whenever you're free to chat more, we'll figure out schedule wise, and I'll just put it on to the end of this. I'll put it out as one episode still, because I'm not gonna do that to people. Like, how did he do it? Like, I can already hear the comments. So, but this is awesome. Like this has been an awesome conversation. And Leslie prepped me a little bit. I knew a little bit of your story, so I knew it was going to be powerful what you share, because any of us that can heal ourselves, which we all can, but the fact that you've done it, you're teaching from a place of, you know, this is how you're living, which is different than just teaching it, because I share things that I know to be true, but I've never had to heal myself of disease. And at the same time, I'm very aware when, again, like I said, if I even start to have a runny nose or sneezing too much, I'm like, all right, Noel. It's just a great indicator for me, and I don't let it go further.
Yeah, it's the message that your body's saying that you need to love yourself more somehow. And your question, you know, you're asking the same question, you're just not using the same words, but it's, how do I need to love myself more in this situation?
Absolutely.
And that's how do I need to love myself more? What do I need to do to love myself more in this situation? That's really the body is your best friend. It loves you unconditionally. It loves you more than anything else on this planet. And it's only loving you. It's not betraying you. It's not, going against you. It's just trying to help you return to love, because nothing works well or can work well when you're not in love. Love is the greatest medicine. It heals all wounds, and it's the things that make all things function.
I'm gonna message you when it's over and just figure out when we can get back on your calendar, and sooner than later.
Okay.
Whenever,
Thank you,
I,
Noel.
I appreciate it. This is awesome. I'm looking forward to. I'm really looking forward to continuing. I'll be looking forward to it until we connect. So I'll be flexible with your schedule whenever it works for you in the next day or two, please.
Okay.
Whenever it's convenient, whatever timing is right, it'll be perfect timing.
All right. I'll look at my schedule and we'll work something out.
I appreciate you, Jerome. You're awesome.
All right. Much love.
You too. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, hey guys, welcome back. Really excited going to finish this conversation here with Jerome, and really enjoying talking to him so far. And where we left off, talking about integrating this self-love practice into our daily lives, and so that we can have all the benefits, and be able to live here and be who and what all of us truly are. And I'm excited to jump into that. So. For you, Jerome, and this is what's fascinating, because all of us and when we talk about integration, these are things that you do obviously every single day, and are big focuses for you in your life. So I love having these conversations, because all of us are sharing things that we became aware of for ourselves and are applying, and then the only reason that we can share them is because this is just life experience. So excited to hear any suggestions or advice, or your daily practices, or however you want to take it, as far as implementing this daily love, self-love practice that you have.
Yeah. So again, reiterating what love is. So to understand kind of how we practice loving ourselves, to understand that love is the energy of our being, it's the essence of our being. So it's getting in tune with that and doing things that nourish that energy, that allow us to embody that energy and to expand that energy. So, and express that energy in our lives. So that's kind of like the underlying, understanding that loving myself is the literal practice of getting in tune with the love energy that I am made of. You can call it source energy. You can call it the energy of your soul, or God energy. Those are literally all correct descriptions of what love actually is. But it's getting in touch with that. And what my healing journey from AIDS and kidney failure taught me was what I call the 5 routes back to love, which are really the paths that lead us back into the energy of love and keep us there when we continue to travel those paths. Loving ourselves is not something we do once and it never, happens again. Because again, I think we talked about it, loving ourselves is the practice of alignment. So, every day is going to offer you some new opportunities to either be in alignment or not. And so that practice is not something that you do once and that it's over with. You do it every day. And also it's not something that you do, perfectly all the time. It's something that some days it's great. And some days, you didn't love yourself as much as you did yesterday. But the goal is that you know how to get back in touch with love when whatever happens gets you out. So having said that, I learned that there were 5 routes to love. And that's kind of what I teach, to my clients and teach people when I speak around the world, is there are 5 routes that I learned through my healing process. And why I say that I learned them is when I began to travel these routes, not only did my body get healthier and it began to get more well, but the things in my life began to work well. They began to function better. They began to, my dreams and aspirations began to manifest quicker and easier. And my life began to taste better and feel better for me. And when I wasn't traveling these routes, it wasn't. Like things weren't working well. My body wasn't getting healthier. As a matter of fact, sometimes it got worse. And so I really learned through very strenuous trial and error that these are the roots that lead us back to love energy. And the first one, since you asked me kind of what they are, the first one is to cherish ourselves, to really, and that's about how we view ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves. And cherishing ourselves is the practice of really viewing ourselves with adoration, really viewing ourselves with appreciation and acceptance, like there's nothing rejected about ourselves, there's nothing we're pushing away or denying, there's nothing that, you know, we believe is wrong with us. You know, it's about looking in ourselves, looking at the value in us as is, looking at the good in ourselves as is, feeling good about the presentation of ourselves as is. That's really cherishing ourselves. That's like that. So that aspect, that root, into the adversarial relationship we have with ourselves, with from how we view ourselves. It bleeds the shame from our energy field, and shame is a very as a matter of fact, shame is one of the most toxic energies that we can hold in the energy field. It is literally at the base of I would say over 90% of our illnesses and 90% of our dysfunctions, um, and addictions as well. And so it bleeds the shame, like, because when we begin to cherish ourselves, what we're beginning to do is, instead of having thoughts and beliefs about ourselves that are dominated with the underlying thought that something's wrong with me, or something's less than with me, or something's not enough about me, cherishing ourselves begins to shift it back into love, which is, I'm worthy, right? There's nothing, there's good. I see the good in me. I accept and embrace all of me. I'm not trying to reject some aspects of me or suppress some aspect of myself. And that's really the foundational root of love. That was the one I had to learn the most, because the majority of my illnesses were manifested from an energetic space, from the space of feeling not enough. I was made to feel like something was wrong with my body because it wasn't thin. When I was growing up, I was, you know, I was the thicker kid or the chubby kid, and so I was made to think that that body size was not desirable, and that body size did not belong. And so the belief that got really grounded and rooted in my consciousness was, there's something wrong with my body. My body's not lovable as it is, and it's not enough. So that disconnected me from love, right? So the way my natural state of being is that I am worthy as is. I am beautiful, and my body is perfect, no matter what its expression is, no matter what the size of it is, no matter what the shape or color of it is, and to feel good about it. Like, if you look at kids, if you look at a baby, babies aren't fit. They're chunky, you know, they're you know, and that's one thing we actually love about them. We're like, oh, look at these little fat cheeks and these little fat legs, and we love to, like, you know, a baby. And if you look at a baby is not coming out with those type of issues around their body. Those are things that we get externally, that get rooted into our consciousness. Those are not something that we come in, because when we come in, we're more in alignment with the soul. We are more, you know, really embracing and embodying of our higher self's truth. And so the babies know, and if you see a baby, you can't keep clothes on them. They want to show you their body as it is, no matter what's going on with them. If it was, even if the baby was born sick, or if the baby was born, you know, it didn't have, it was born without an arm or without a leg, that baby loves that body and believes that there's nothing wrong with that body. And that is the truth. And we get disconnected from that truth. And I got disconnected from that truth through, you know, some of the things that were the messages that were going on in my environment. And so to reconnect myself to the truth, which again is love, to reconnect to myself, to my truth, I had to travel that route of learning how to really cherish myself, how to really view myself with appreciation and acceptance, so that I could feel the aspect of love, which is worthiness,
I love that.
unconditionally.
I love it. I want to share something that you mentioned that I've just, it's so important for all of us, because the good news for all of us, when it comes to, I love how you mentioned that, you know, we can't just claim that we are, you know, like, it's not like once you decide to love yourself, once you decide to connect with source, God, universe, all it is, that it's just that way forever. Like, we can't just, like, it's always moment by moment. And like you mentioned, some days we'll do better at it than other days, and it's all okay. You know, the key is just, you know, once we become aware of this, to be aware when we are, you know, allowing ourselves to be connected, when we are loving ourselves, and when we're not. And it's not about making ourselves right or wrong for it. It's just about, if we're aware, when we have a choice to actually do something about it. And I love that, because a lot of times we like to label ourselves or others, you know, oh, they're, they're a happy person, or oh, they're always, they're always a, a depressed person, they're a mad person, or whatever it is. The answer to all of those is always sometimes. Like, it's not, we're never all one way when it comes to frequency and energy. So I love that distinction. And then when you mentioned being able to cherish ourselves, one thing that, once I realized that all of us were made out of the same non-physical stuff, and the baby knows this, like you just mentioned, when we come in, we're all made of the same non-physical energy, and then we're just expressing it, through the use of these physical, vessels that we have here with us. Once I learned that, then it's just a matter of, being excited that I am physical, because now I could touch things and feel things and, create things, and, all of these things that we get to experience as a human being. And just knowing that I'm no different than anyone that I see. And because we're all made of the same, non-physical stuff that's allowing our hearts to beat, and, our minds to work the way they do, and the planets to orbit, and everything else. So, I love that has helped me a ton, as far as feeling just the connection, and, no separation, because I don't look at myself as any better or worse than anyone, because we're all made of the same, God energy. So I love that. I love the first root, and the reminder that you gave leading up to that is so important for all of us.
Yeah, it's this. It's and again, Noel, it's to understand that there's a quote I love by an author called Anita Morjani, who was a best-selling author of a book called Dying to Be Me, who had a near-death experience very similar to mine. As a matter of fact, she's probably the only person that I've heard that had a near-death experience where our lessons were very similar. Um, and I mean, I have some similarities with many people who've had them, but ours are almost word for word. But she says, that you have to love yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. And the thing that I really want to iterate with, this practice is that nothing in your life is going to work well unless you do this. If you're a soul, if you're disconnected from your soul's energy, you cannot manifest your good, and your body cannot be healthy. It just will not. So loving ourselves is an important practice. It is important to learn how. It's the most important thing you can do, because your entire life depends on it. And so, for example, with the first route, if you don't travel that route, if you do not learn how to cherish yourself, one of the things that's going to happen, not only are you going to rob your body from, you're going to withhold your body from love, and the body cannot sustain itself without the energy of love, because the body was built to run on love. Love is literally the fuel of the body, like gas is the fuel of the car. So you're robbing your body of love, but also, because of how this universe works, it is a universe of reflection, or a universe of mirroring. So if you are not loving yourself, if you're not cherishing yourself, you cannot manifest relationships or experiences that cherish you as well. So if you don't feel enough, what you're going to do, because again, it's not because you're being punished or anything, it's because your outside reality has to mirror your internal reality, your internal state. So if you don't feel good about yourself, you don't feel enough, you don't accept some aspect of yourself, you don't appreciate some aspect of yourself, what's going to happen is you're going to manifest relationships that don't appreciate that aspect of you either, that don't accept that aspect of you either, that don't cherish you in the ways that you cherish you. And it's just going to magnify that feeling. And so it's just going to get magnified. But the more you cherish yourself, the more you attract people who cherish you. Like my relationships literally, almost like to some people it was a magic, but again, it's the law of how things work. But the more I began to love myself, my relationships literally did like a complete 180. Like before, I used to get ghosted a lot. I used to I'd never really, people would never really stay with me. They would come in the beginning, but then they would, they would be all enamored and all of that for about 3 days. And then they were gone, right? And after that, and I would never actually attract the type of people I really wanted to attract to me either. That was another issue I used to have. But after, when I and I tried everything. I did all of I read all the books, I did all of those things, and I was still having these underlying issues. But when I worked on this aspect of really feeling enough and looking at myself with unconditional appreciation and acceptance, my relationship changed, not just my intimate relationships, my work relationships, every relationship. So loving ourselves literally is the key to all of it, all of it. And that was just, again, that was just the first route, but it's the foundational run. If you don't learn any other one, if you can just do that one, is that if you think about loving yourself as like a house, right? This is the foundation part. If you don't have this foundational part, and as we talk about the other ones, you'll see, as if you don't have this foundational part, it's really almost impossible to build the other parts on them because they all kind of are grounded in this foundation.
Absolutely. I love that. And when you mention relationships, one thing I love about relationships when we do discover what you're describing here is not only do we begin to see and attract what's reflecting from us. So, if that's what we, if we're being who what we truly are, we'll start to see the desires that we have when it comes to relationships right in front of us. At the same time, the people that are around us, because we're all mirroring each other. So they're getting a chance to see in themselves the most real part of themselves through you. So they love being around you. Like they might not be able to explain it. They might call it, you're so positive, or you're so, whatever it is. But what they're really describing is they feel more of who and what they truly are when they're around you. And so it's allowing them to feel that as well.
And the energy you're giving them is different as well, because when you're loving yourself, so you can only give the energy out that you have within. So I can't accept something in you, Noel, that I haven't learned to accept in myself. So if there's something about you, let's say that I don't feel good about my weight, I'm going to notice the thing I'm going to notice in you is when your weight's not where, I think it should be. Or if your personality, if I haven't accepted the weird aspects of my personality, or if I haven't accepted, the femininity in my being or the masculinity in my being, I'm not going to be able to accept that expression in you either. Right. And so one thing that changed in me around with this first route is the more I began to cherish myself, the more I could absolutely unconditionally cherish you, no matter what your expression was. Right. Because I'm not rejecting any aspect of myself. I'm not shaming any aspect of myself anymore. I don't feel like there's some aspect of my being that doesn't belong, even if it's outside of the norm, even if it's not, it doesn't go within the thread of societal norms or whatever. I embrace all the aspects of myself and all the expressions of myself. And I am able, because I can do that, I now can do that for you. I couldn't do that for people before. I was judging them a lot. I would reject them a lot. There were certain aspects, especially with sexuality, certain aspects of people's expression of their femininity. If they were men, I couldn't really handle. Women who were same gender loving, if they were too masculine, I couldn't handle that. But when I began to really embrace all the pieces of my own being and really bleed out that message of there's something wrong with me, when I really understood that all is right with me and I'm worthy, I became this different energy for other people. So that I don't have this energy of rejection and judgment and criticism and shaming anymore. And even if that's not something you audibly hear from me, you can energetically feel it from me. And this is what happens when we shift ourselves, when you become more love, people feel better around you because what they're feeling is the truth of themselves. You allow people to express the truth of themselves because that's what love does.
Absolutely. So it's so powerful. I love it so much. I mean, when you're describing it, I'm seeing and feeling all of the relationships that I have come in and out of my life, or just the people that are around me. Period. And I know that I can never judge someone or condemn someone or be critical of someone. And that was a huge challenge for me back before all this, awareness, as far as especially being critical of myself or others. But I know I can't do any of those things and be connected at the same time. So it's a great reminder, like if for any of us, like if we want to know, how's it going as far as, am I loving myself right now in this moment? The answer is no. If we're blaming or condemning or judging someone else, it's a very easy, reminder. And
Mm-hmm.
we can even appreciate those reminders, because if it's our dominant intention to be connected and to love ourselves and to be in this energy of love, reminders like that are great if you can be aware of them, because now we have a choice and we can choose to return back. And also be able to ask ourselves, what maybe have I not come to to terms with myself, just like you just mentioned. I love that. That's awesome. If we find ourselves judging or condemning someone else, maybe there's a question that we can ask ourselves: is there something there inside of me? Which the
Yeah.
answer is yes. Just if you
Yeah.
ask that question to yourself, then you'll get the answer.
Yeah. What are they showing me? What are they showing me? Because this is all we're ever doing. Each of us, and I think, the teacher Ram Dass, my beloved, who, transitioned to the other side last year. Um, One of the things he used to say all the time was we're all just walking each other home. And what we're each doing, literally, that's literally what we're doing. We're showing up for each other as mirrors to help you see where you're either in alignment with love or not. And if you're not, that opportunity is literally the invitation for you to come back in alignment with love, to walk yourself back home to the energy of your being. So if I have a judgment for somebody else, or if I'm like, and it's different from, this is something different than being aware that there's something that doesn't serve you, right? That's something different than actually having a judgment or a criticism or shame, which is saying there's something wrong with that person, or there's something less than about that person, right? And that something about them doesn't belong. That's when you're crossing over into, this is being a mirror for, what is it that they're showing me that I can't sit with myself? With, I'm saying that when I'm like, this doesn't belong for me, and this is not okay. I'm not okay with this about myself. And that, when you use that as a mirror, you can literally walk yourself back home to love. It's like, oh, this is a part of me that's asking for more acceptance. This is a part of me that's asking for more appreciation, for me to shift my beliefs around this and my thought patterns around this, so I can have a different energetic expression, so that I can show up differently in the world for other people. And again, that's different from, this is something you're doing that is actually harming me in some way, and this is not okay with me, and I need to set some type of boundary around that. But that's different from, there's something wrong with you, there's something less than around about you, some aspect of you doesn't belong. And that's a different conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, really, I'll share this with the audience. I mean, where does it say anywhere that anything is right or wrong? For me, life is this simple. It's, are we choosing in this moment to be in a frequency of peace, content, happy, joy, love, excited, passion, anything, that feels really, really good, or not? And not making myself or any others right or wrong for it. But if, as we get older and older, and we are on this earth, and we become habitual creatures as far as how we think, how we choose to live, sometimes people in our lives will show us, and not to judge them or make them wrong for it, but they'll show us that they have a habit of being condemning or blaming or frustrated. They haven't become aware of what we're talking about. They haven't heard this conversation yet. That's where the light bulb has come on. And we get to, when you mentioned setting boundaries, I know that if someone hasn't chosen for themselves because they haven't had the awareness, or maybe they've become aware, maybe they're aware that they talk a lot of crap all the time, and that's just something that they're okay with. I've noticed this culturally in some places that that's kind of part of the culture. Some parts of the United States, I could think of a few cities where people sometimes culturally, people are just okay with being real rough and rugged and talking a lot of trash, and it's just, not saying they're right or wrong for that, but I choose my personal energy. I don't want to live in this moment that way. So we can set up some space, and when they want to interact with me in the frequencies of at least peace and calm, or happy, having a good time, enjoying life, or being appreciative, then I'm ready to play with any human, because in and of itself, there's nothing right or wrong with any of us, because we're all the same. It's just a matter of if we're choosing to be connected to this sameness, this same love energy that we've been talking about, and our physical expressions of it. Well, now that's choice. How we want to express it, or how we don't want to express it, if we want to allow ourselves to disconnect from it right now in the moment. So, yeah, the right or wrong thing is I mean, where does it say that? Anything is,
Yeah, that's one thing I learned in my journey, and really a lot of the downloads and channels I've done with my guides um, is really, it's to not think so much in terms of right and wrong as far as those words go, but to think about it as far as your life choices and what you choose for yourself, and all of that. It's really about what's most appropriate for me and what's not. right? And that can change in any moment. Like what I need to, what's most appropriate to me when I need to heal from something is different than what's appropriate to me from, when I am healed and I've got this, or it's different. It changes in a different situation. So what's most appropriate for me? Is this appropriate for me or not? Is this appropriate for my alignment in this moment, or is it not? There are things that I had to do when I was healing that before I was in that process, I thought may have been completely morally wrong for me, right? But they were absolutely what I needed in that moment. And after that journey, it's not something I may be interested in anymore. But it was the absolutely appropriate thing. And if I had just labeled it as wrong and this is something to never be inside of, right? Or that doesn't belong any type of expression in my life, that very thing wouldn't have saved my life. For a while before, I thought being a vegan was the only way that you could heal. But there came a period in my life, in my healing journey, where I had to start. My body was like, "You're not going to make it." And all of the tests, and we had tried everything else, plant-based and raw. I mean, I did raw, alkaline, all that, right? And it wasn't working. And the only thing that worked for me was to eat meat at that time. Now, meat before was wrong. It was the evil in my consciousness, right? It was the evil. My body didn't start getting well until I started eating meat, and it started to get well within that very week that I did. So for me at that time, now after that, I took meat to get out of my diet again, right? Because that wasn't appropriate for my energy at that level. So and there's many different things around that. There's many different things and financially, sexually, all these different things where it's really about what's most appropriate for you. What is most going to help you be in alignment in this moment and what's not. And that's going to change. That is going to change. It's not going to stay the same over the arc. If there were some things that will ride with you for a long time, there are some things that will ride with you for a short time. And you just really have to tune into yourself and really trust and listen, which is another route, by the way,
Oh,
which is
that's perfect
trusting
sentence.
yourself, right? Which is trusting yourself. And part of trusting yourself, which trusting yourself really puts you back into alignment with the feeling that and the understanding that all is well, that you are supported. And that's, again, the all is well is an aspect of love. It's the feeling of being at ease and feeling safe. And the more you begin to do that, the more you listen to your intuition, the more you really put, one of the really big aspects of trust that I had to learn was really how um, to put stock more in the insight that was coming from me over the advice that was coming from other people. Right. So insight, basically almost insight over information. Right. So there's all this outside information. So that's just going back to what I just said. This is a perfect example of it. All the information that I was getting, all the things I was reading, all the experts and authority figures that I was talking to and going to for help were saying the only way you're going to heal is if you're fully vegan and if you're alkaline. And I did that for a while, and my body did get a little better. And there came a point where it wasn't getting better. And we tried everything in that guise. And the thing that it was asking for was, and the thing that other people, that my doctors were saying, and I could feel my gut a little bit in it, but I was like, no, they can't be my gut because this is what the truth is. But my gut was saying you need to eat meat a little bit. But my head up here, it was filled with all the external information, was like, that is the worst thing you could do. That is not right. That is not going to raise your vibration. That is not going to cleanse your system. Your system is not going to be alkaline if you do that. And as a matter of fact, at that time, one of the things that happens when you're on dialysis and we have kidney failure, is that they monitor your protein stores. And so they monitor how much protein is in your blood. And my protein, I think like a acceptable range for them was like, I can't remember exactly what the measurement term was for the grams or whatever, but it was like 4. Whatever it was like 4 was great. If you get 4 and above, this is great. Your protein is doing really great. My protein was like at 1, right? And like, it is a big deal if it drops to 3. It's a big deal if it's 3. They're like, you need to eat protein. You need to be eating all this. I was at 1. And no matter what I did, No matter what type of shakes I took, no matter what type of veggie burgers I was eating, no matter how many beans, it was not coming up. Right. And they were like, you're literally, your body's going to shut down if you don't. And one of the things I had to do was really just listen. I really had to trust what my body was asking for. And when I did that, my protein just jumped up. My body started to get better. My body started to heal fast, all of that. So, but all the external information. So this is one of the biggest foundational things with trust is learning how to tune into not only what your intuition is saying, but what your body is saying. Your body is a wisdom all on its own. It knows exactly what it needs. It knows exactly how to heal better than anybody on the outside does. Better, they can help, they can offer assistance, but the overall, like the last term, the last person signing that check needs to be your body's wisdom and your intuition. And you have to learn how to tune into that. But that's trusting when you do, and when you do that, when you follow your intuition and when you really trust the wisdom of your body, what you start to understand is how safe you are, how much they actually know, and they're guiding you to higher and higher good and away from things that harm you. And you understand how all is really well. Like your inner wisdom is literally like a GPS system that is literally guiding you step by step to well-being, not just the health in your body, but a very good feeling, delicious life experience. But you've got to listen. And if you listen and you follow, it will do it. It will get it. That's the only place it's guiding you to. It's not guiding you to anything else. And so that's one of the things of loving ourselves is trusting, so that not only are we guided to our higher good, but that we can ground ourselves in a feeling of being at ease and a feeling of being fully supported in this life and this life being safe. And when we're not, when we don't trust ourselves and when we don't trust the universe and the flow of our lives, what ends up happening is, one, we take in all this external advice and we get disconnected from ourselves and we get pulled all over the place. Two, we never really feel safe. We don't really have this proof that this is a safe world to be in. This is a very safe world to be in. And we walk ourselves, instead of, doing something where following our intuition when it said, you really don't want to be involved in this, what's really more exciting for you is this thing over here. Instead of going over here because you think, well, I really need to make money now. Instead of listening to this thing that's pulling you over here, you go over here based on what you think your obligations and your responsibilities and your fears are. Shit doesn't work out. And it ends up sometimes being very painful. And that's where a lot of our unnecessary suffering is coming from. So that's one of the other roots of love, is really trusting yourself, because who you really are is love. Who you really are is source. Who you really are is God. And if you can't trust that, then there's nothing else in the world to trust anyway. So that's the thing to trust over everything else. And when you do that, you find out, oh, wow, everything really is on my side. We say these affirmations all the time. Life is on my side. Everything is working out in my favor. But what I found is until you really do the work of really getting in tune with yourself, that's just something you say. It's just my vocabulary just slipped me, but it's just like, verbal dressing,
Yeah,
right? It's just like little decorational words that doesn't sit, because, but this process taught me through many life experiences that I had in this healing journey, that all is truly well. And well-being is truly the order of the day if you are allowing yourself to be guided by it, if you're not bucking up against it, if you really learn how to trust yourself and listen to yourself, all is always well, and things really do work out in your favor. Now, I get some challenges still to where I have to go into a deeper understanding and embodiment of that, but I have enough now to know that that's really the truth. That's not something that's just some platitude or something that somebody put in the book to sell books. That is the truth. All is well, because all that is really love, and it loves me. And so that's one of the roots is really to trust ourselves, which returns us to a feeling of ease.
I love it. I love it. And this is it's such when we get this part of life, Jerome, because I know that when I'm receiving answers to questions that I've asked, because that's it's so important. Like for any of us, if we have a question about any area of life, health, relationships, financially, we can ask that to God. We can ask that to the universe, and just be excited for the answer to receive the answer. It could come in various different ways. It could just come in a thought right down low, right into your mind. It could come, you could be doing anything, most likely. And I just leave space for possibility, but almost always it's going to come in a place where we are connected because we can't hear it or we can't see it. If we're frustrated, worried, we're anxious, trying to figure it out, trying to make it happen, we're just not in a place to receive the answers that are there for us always, but we can't hear or see it or feel it when we're not connected with them. And so, I get a lot of amazing answers through meditation. I get answers when I'm taking a shower, that I'm just relaxed. I'm not rushing to try to hurry up and bathe, trying to finish it up. I'm just enjoying, the process. I could be out in nature. The answers can come in so many different ways, and we can trust those. And I love the example that you use where, maybe someone wanted to make more money and there was an excitement over here, but whatever they have going on as far as their practice beliefs and their fears is keeping them. That's such a great example, because anything in life, like, it doesn't matter to me, even if going in that example that Jerome used, even if going to see what that thing was about, there was an excitement, even if that wasn't the final answer, like the thing that you'd be doing for money for the rest of your life, there's some life experience there that can lead you to the actual path. I mean, that's the path. So the path is always unfolding for all of us in our lives. And so if we have an excitement to go experience anything or go see about something, it's a great next step on our journey, because that life experience, that clarity, can either be the thing that we've been asking for in itself, or it will lead us to the next step and the next step. And it's something that we needed to experience so that we can be ready for the step after that. So um,
Yeah.
great examples. And I mean, that's when we get into practices, like just like Jerome was saying, when we can get used to knowing when we're connected, when we're being loved, and when we're not. When we are, we can trust the thoughts, we can trust the words, we can trust the action. We don't have to, because you can't fear and love, be love at the same time. So if we're fearing it and worried about it, just know in those moments, that's not when you're likely, probably never receive the answer to the questions that we're asking.
Yeah, there was a teacher that said to me when I was in college, I never forget this. Dr. Lawrence Carter at Morehouse College, I think he's still there. Um, he said to me one day that infinity is silent, and the finite world is noisy. So if you want to hear what infinity has to say, you have to get quiet. Now, I'm going to flip that a little bit, because this is what I learned in my journey, is that infinity is relaxed. So that dimension of your being, the infinite wisdom of your being, of your higher self, of your soul, is a relaxed energy. The human aspect of your being is not, right? And so if you want to hear what that aspect has to say, if you want to get the guidance from that aspect, you have to relax your being. And that is why meditation is important. That's why walking in nature is important. That's why just taking some time to do some deep breaths is important, because the more relaxed you feel, the more divine guidance you receive. And the less relaxed you feel, the less you're going to hear it. So when a lot of times people say, I can't hear my intuition, I don't know what that is. One of the big things I do with my clients is, okay, we got to help you relax, because your whole energy field is not allowing you to receive. It's not that's is not available to you, and it's not that it's not being offered to you right now, but you're in an energetic space that's not allowing you to hear that. And so that's kind of, the practices. One of the things to help you trust yourself is to learn how to relax, to get yourself at ease. We live in this pace of world, and a lot of this is our society and our culture. We live at such a pace in this world that it's completely disconnecting us from the energy of our being. And because we are disconnected, we're not guided divinely, we're not living our best lives, we're not happy, and we're not healthy. And it's really this pace of life. It's this go, 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 go pace of life. Put everything on your plate, put too much on there. You have way too much. There's an over glorification of being busy. There's an over glorification of being hustle and grind, which just, if every time I hear it, my shoulders just go up when somebody says, I'm on my grind, I'm on my hustle, I'm doing this, and we over glorify it and we honor it and we bow to it in this culture as those, but those people are burning their nervous systems out. I know, because half of them are my clients. They've got a lot of money, right? They've got all these trinkets and they've achieved a lot of things, and they're not happy, and they're on their life's edge to where they think their life's not worth it, right? Their life, their suicide attempts. There's all types of things that come from being disconnected from ourselves. And we live at this pace where in our culture where it's just fast, fast, fast. Wake up, you got something to do. You got to check your phone. You got to get this email together. You got to respond to this person. You've got to, get this thing, get out the door, get to work, and not connect to yourself. And that's the first thing in the morning that we really need to do, is before the day ask anything, before we give out of our energy, we need to pour energy into us. And one of the ways to do that is to just slow down in the day. Don't check your emails, don't check that phone, don't get on that computer. Meditate, go outside for a walk for 5 minutes, just sit and do some deep breaths so that you can get yourself in alignment with your energy so you can be more divinely guided. Other than that, we're just all running like chickens with our heads cut off, and excuse the term, but that's really what's happening. We are very disconnected from ourselves and expecting ourselves to function. And that's not happening. It's not happening well. And you can look at our lives. Like, it's not just something I'm philosophizing about. You can look in the mirror and see, how well is my life really working for me? How at ease and relaxed do I feel? How connected to myself do I feel? How guided am I? How good do I feel about myself? And again, it's not it's not your fault why this is happening, because this is a culture. But show me one person who doesn't have some of this in the culture that we live in today, that was raised in that culture, and I'll really show you a miracle. But this is kind of what's going on. But even though it's not your fault, it's your responsibility. And the only way you're going to get out of this is to learn how to effectively love yourself. That's the only way you're going to get out of it, because loving ourselves is the practice of connecting back to ourselves. It's the only thing that does it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what Jerome mentioned right there, it's, in my opinion, it's much easier to start the day in a place of connection than doing all this hustle and bustle and then trying to get yourself connected after you're already stressed yourself out because you looked at your phone and you've got all this stuff's going on. Like, all of us have the benefit of, when we first wake up after we've slept, none of us are stressed out while we're sleeping. Maybe you were stressed before you went to sleep, which makes it hard to sleep. Your dream state could be affected, and all these things. But when we first wake up, we all get the power of choice of, what's my first thought going to be? What's my second thought going to be? I've gotten the habit, and I like to be in the habit of just being appreciative when I first wake up, just being, happy to be alive, and just being excited for just the mystery of the day. And then I have a meditation practice where it's not too long, but purposely I'm 10, 15, 20 minutes where my whole purpose is, I just want to be at least at calm, at peace, to where just what you just described. Because I know that if I could start the day that way, and I felt it to start the day, then it's very easy to feel it if momentum is carrying me away from that. And I can go back and I can touch it again. I can stay there, or even better for me, which I like to live, let momentum carry me to where, ooh, now I'm excited about the things that, I've committed to do or that I have going on. But I'm doing them with the energy of, connection, of being that God energy, flowing into those activities. And that's not going to be in a anxious rush, going to make it happen. Got to manipulate, got to do all these things. I'm the same way that for the longest time, like, it's just the hustle of, I see it all the time still on social media. And my question, I guess, to any person out there that chooses to live that way, not saying you're wrong for doing it, if today were your last, or if you knew that tomorrow wasn't promised, would that be the same way that you choose to live that whole day, just grinding it out, or would you mix in some fun, some appreciation for life, or for the people in your life, or for the things that you love to do? Would you mix in some of that, at least, and maybe still get the things done that you have committed to, because you care about the other people involved and you want to allow them to to have your benefit of what you've committed to do? we don't have to sacrifice one area. We definitely don't have to sacrifice the connection for anything. For me, that's just not, there's no other part of life that I want to do being disconnected. So I just like to be connected, and then I get to choose what I want to do with my time from there. So that's awesome.
Yeah, this is that kind of is an excellent segue into another route. And I don't know how much time we have left, but I because we may want to go deep into this one, so we may not get to the other two. But what you said, so I want to first, before I give you this route, I want to just touch on that. As a person who's been on his deathbed twice, I know what the things are that you think about when it's your last day. I know that. And I know that you don't think I should have clocked into the office one more time. I really wish, I had worked some more hours. I really wish, I had done. What you think about is, how much more you would have liked to do the things that really nourished you that you didn't. And and the nourishing ourselves is the root. It was the last one I really learned. It was the one that really took me the longest to learn in my healing journey, because again, it's so anti of everything that our culture was teaching about really doing things that feed your soul's energy, that feed it, that expand it. What we're mostly taught is how to focus our life on things that deplete it and drain it. And that's really the question, is what you were asking, which is so beautiful, is of all the things that you were doing, did those things really feed your spirit? Did they really feed your spirit? Or did they take it, or did they drain it, or did they deplete it? And your body is letting you know, like, do you feel most alive? Do you feel uplifted? Or do you feel drained? Do you feel tired? Right? Because here's the thing, here's a great healing thing. It's one of the biggest, I'll probably say the number one healing things to understand, and wellness things to understand. What drains your spirit drains your body. They are not separate. If you are doing things and your way of lifestyle was draining your spirit, it's also going to drain your body. It's going to make you sick. This is where the majority of our illnesses and especially our chronic illnesses and our diseases, where they're coming from. We are drastically drained. Our spirits are drastically drained because we're living these lives that don't charge us, that don't nourish us. And what I mean by nourishing is, like, nourishing ourselves is about following our joy. It's about working in our passions. It's about developing a consistent relationship with rest, right? And so these three elements, it's about doing what makes you feel most alive and makes you feel most like yourself. So I want to kind of break down those things separately. One is, so first, rest. Like, I had to, one of the things that I learned in my healing journey and that I work with clients is that, again, understanding that this whole reality, is this universe and this earth experience, is an experience of mirroring. So we say the law of attraction is really the law of mirroring. So what you're going to get is a reflection of your internal state. No matter what shows up in your life, it is a reflection somehow of your internal state. Your internal state is your belief systems and your vibration. So basically what you think and how you feel, especially what you think and how you feel about yourself. Now, the thing to understand about is, like, that I had to understand in my healing journey was that where did these illnesses come from, energetically? And when I looked at them, I talked initially about, AIDS was a manifestation of shame. AIDS made me feel, and how you can understand where the disease come from is, how does this make you feel emotionally? How does this make you feel? Right? Because it's just going to be a bigger exasperation of something you've been feeling internally for a long time. Illness does not show up. It does not show up. It's not the first thing that knocks on your door to help you return to love. It's usually your soul's last line of defense, right? What usually shows up is some type of emotional duress. And where we're not taught that you're supposed to feel good. You're supposed to emotionally feel good. the majority of the time. Not all the time, but the majority of the time you're supposed to emotionally feel good. And so when you don't feel emotionally good, it's a signal that you need to do something, right? And we just not taught to really pay attention to that. And so we let that go for a long time. So the soul has to send another signal. The next signal usually is some type of dysfunction that's going on in your life. Things aren't working out well in your life. There's some type of, your relationship is falling apart, your job's not really going well, something's happening. And again, it's making you feel a heightened level of what you initially felt emotionally. So again, for HIV, that was shame. That was making me feel like something was wrong with my body. And so I spoke about where that came from, me being a thicker kid. Also, there was something wrong with my sexuality. So I had this feeling of being wrong. But the last line of defense, if you don't pay attention to the emotions, you don't pay attention to the dysfunctions, the last line is something that happens in the body. And and the body is a beautifully strong thing. So it can take a long time for this to show up. So it's not something you just felt yesterday. It's something that's been going on for a while in you. And so HIV was about shame for me. Kidney failure was the feeling that I got from that was, one, I didn't feel free. And two, I felt drained. Like literally. And also the body is beautiful. It is so wise. It is going to reflect back to you perfectly. If you really pay attention, it's going to fully show you exactly what this is that's going on. So, okay, so I had kidney failure and I was on dialysis. So literally, dialysis is literally pulling the blood out of your body, the life energy of your body. It's literally draining it out of you. And so what I felt was I would always feel so drained, not just like physically, but I felt it emotionally. Now, why was I drained? Well, one, because I wasn't doing things that I really loved to do. I wasn't living a life that I really wanted to live. I wasn't working in my passions. I was doing things at that time, I was doing things to make money instead of really following what my heart wanted to do, which was at that time, I wanted to sing and I wanted to teach spirituality. I wasn't doing that. And I also, I was always saying yes to things that I didn't really want to say yes to. Right. I was always being in overwhelm. And so I was drained. My energy was drained. And again, what drains the spirit will drain your body. Definitely. And so that was what I had to learn. And so one of the last things to learn was how, instead of living a life that drained me, what does it look like to live a life that nourishes me? Right. And that's one, to work in my passions. Again, going back to our cultures, we're really not taught about that. We're taught to put money first, and then maybe later you can focus on stuff that maybe you want to do. But what ends up happening, if you think about your work is at least 8 hours of your day. If 8 hours of your day you're doing something you don't want to do, what's literally happening? You're draining your energy 8 hours a day for at least 5 days a week, for at least that. Let alone what else you maybe have going on in your life that's draining you, which is again why I have so many clients I work with just by just changing their jobs, they heal. And they think, oh my, this is just miraculous. What is it? This is how things work. You gotta have your love energy in us, right? And this is something for me I had to learn. And that I am so grateful that kidney failure showed up for me, because I wasn't, and if it didn't show up, I wasn't gonna learn it and I was just gonna go out. It helped me really see this. And so nourishing ourselves is about, one, doing the things that bring us joy, that uplift us, that, having fun. So joy to me is like a combination of fun and pleasure and passion. So what are the things, passion is, what are the things that fuel you? So when people say like, I don't know what my passions are, it's really looking at what fuels you when you do it. What do you feel like? If you pay attention to your energy, when you do something, you literally feel charged. You feel charged in it, right? For me, that's writing, that's teaching, that's singing, doing things like this, like having deep soulful conversation. I just get life off of that, right? It literally, like literally listen to the words. I get life off of that. That literally breathes life into me. But I was living a life where I wasn't doing that. I wasn't writing. I wasn't teaching. I was working a 9-to-5 job. And instead of breathing life into me, it was taking breath from me. it was taking life from me, right? And so loving ourselves is literally doing things every day to feed our energy. We're both biological beings and energetic beings. This is something else we're not taught, right? That we think this right here, like this flesh and bone, brown skin, handsome man here, is the all that is of our being, and it's not. And what I learned in my journey was literally this part of our being is less than 5% of us. If you look at it like an iceberg, this is like the tip of the iceberg that you see, and 95% of your being is below the level of sight. And it's the biggest part of you. And you have to feed that part too. That part is energy. This part is biology. So if you want to think about it, it's physical and non-physical. This is physical. So this needs water, it needs sleep, it needs food, right? The energy part of your being needs ease and it needs joy, right? It's got to get those things in there, and appreciation also. That's a whole nother video, but it's got to get those things in there. So that's what feeds it. And if it is not fed, it gets drained. So nourishing ourselves is doing the things that feed our energy as well, not just looking at, getting 3 meals a day in. Every day I got to do something that feeds me. So for me, I write. I try to write every day. I like to try to, if I can't write, then I try to get with a friend and have some laughs, or, I like exercising. That kind of fuels me out a little bit. But doing the things that are fun for me, doing things that are passionate for me, doing the things that make me feel most like myself. And the thing that I learned too, why I was so drained, because I was disconnected from some of those things I was talking about: writing and teaching, traveling, seeing some of my friends. That a lot of my friends don't live in my city, so I had to travel to go see them, and I wasn't doing a lot of that because I was so disconnected from those things. I wasn't feeling like myself. And that's another key area. When you're not feeling like yourself, that usually tells you what kind of root of love you really need to travel a lot. When you're not feeling like yourself, that's really, you're not doing the things that really nourish you, that make you feel most like yourself. And that is an act of love. You are literally getting love energy in yourself with joy. Joy is, I was telling somebody the other day, a client the other day, joy is in this world, in this dimension, joy is the gas station for the soul. Is where the soul goes to fuel itself. So when you're feeling low, what do you need? You need more joy. And we just haven't been taught that that's the way that you should prioritize your joy. That is something that you just get, every once in, if you get some joy in, maybe at the end of the week, in the weekend, maybe, or maybe a few times in this month, you're supposed to feel joy every day. And you law of attraction heads, that's one of the things everybody says. You got to feel good. Feeling good is the order of the day, and joy is how you feel. One of the main ways you feel good. And you have to prioritize your life around it. Like, what breathes joy? How do you build your joy? And that was what I had to learn to heal, was like, how do I shift my life so that it is literally grounded in and based on joy every day? Not just sometimes, not just I'll get some joy in tomorrow, I guess, but it's almost like if I was saying, well, I'll just eat maybe this weekend, but I don't have time to eat this week. I don't have time to eat this. Nobody would say that. Nobody would say that. If you did, you'd be like, oh, do you realize how unhealthy that is? You realize what's going to happen to you if you don't, but nobody says that. We're not taught in our culture, because that's literally what you're saying. When you say, I don't have time today to do something and this is how I used to live my life. And I'm telling you this as a recovering person who had to get sick to recover, right? But what we're saying literally when we say, I don't have time to work in my passions, or I don't have time to go have fun or to do the things that please me, what you're saying is, I don't have time to eat today. And how many times do you think it's okay for you to miss an entire day of eating before your body begins to shut down? And not even that, but how well do you think your life is going to operate when you're malnourished? So that's what the biggest root that I had to learn was how to really properly nourish myself. how to really structure my life so that I'm not pushing the things that feed me into the margins, into occasionally, so that they take the majority of my day. And I had to restructure everything. That's how you got this version of me now that does healing work, because this is what I love to do. This My entire life is my work is based upon just me offering the wisdom that I gained from my journey, and I live for this. I love it. It feeds me to be able to share this with other people and help them in some type of way. Feeds me. Not doing so, before I did this type of work, I was a business mentor. I was teaching people how to, make money in their business, and I was very good at it. And I was getting paid a lot. Like, I was getting paid per hour what people dreamed about getting paid sometimes in a week. And I hated it. It was not me, because I couldn't fully speak about, all the other things I was learning. I couldn't fully bring out the fact that I could see and read energy. Couldn't talk about that I had guides that were helping me. I couldn't talk about, in this person with this person that wants to know how to make $100,000 more dollars in this month. If I could clearly see you have an energetic block around money, and we need to talk about that. We need to clear your energy a bit. They didn't want to hear that. They wanted to hear, what is the X, Y, and Z things that I can do in my product sales to get this thing. And I'm like, okay, you can do that, but it's not, but I couldn't talk about that. But I was making a lot of money, right? And I was, on the cover of a Business Time magazine. And I was, doing all these things, had all these accolades, and was not being nourished. And my body wasn't healthy and I wasn't functioning well. And so this is the type of thing that we have to reorient our lives. Like, loving ourselves is not the thing that's taught in dominant culture anywhere. It's not. It's something that you're going to have to get things like this. Is why your work is so beautiful, because you're literally giving people the wisdom that they don't get in the traditional places that they actually need. This is the type of stuff we need to be talking about to live well, to actually have functioning lives that taste and feel good. And that's one of the things, like, you've got to nourishing yourself is definitely an aspect of loving ourselves. One, because our body depends on it. You can't be healthy if you're not well nourished. Two, you're not going to be happy if you're not well nourished. You're just not. Your life is not going to feel good to you, and it's not going to feel worth it. And you're not going to feel like yourself when you're not doing the things that feed you. You're not going to be you. So yeah, that was kind of the biggest, that was the biggest root for me. Because again, I grew up in a culture that, was really success oriented, and was really making money oriented. And I also grew up in a culture with a family that was workaholics. My mother is and still is a physician, and although that was she is in her passion. That's exactly what she wants to do. Um, but she was working all the time. I mean, there was no day off, and there is not one today for her still. And so we learn more by what we see modeled in our environment, especially by our caregivers. And so she was that. My father was an entrepreneur, and he was working all the time. And so what I saw and what I began to embody in my own consciousness, in my energy field, was to be successful. You worked your ass off until you didn't have anything left. And then two, also my parents were overgivers. And they were really gay. And this is something I really wish also led me to being drained, by the way. It wasn't just that I was malnourished with that, but I was also overgiver. And so my parents would, give you the shirt off their backs, even if it was, negative 20 degrees outside, and they knew that by doing so they would die. They would do that, and they continue to do that. And that's kind of how they showed up in the world. But what that meant was, you give and you give and you give until you're depleted and you have nothing left for yourself. And that's how I showed up. That's how I showed up on my relationships. That's how I showed up in my friendships. That's how I showed up in my work. Like, I was always giving of myself out, and not receiving in equal terms. So I was again malnourished because I wasn't receiving the very things I needed. But that was really hard. That one was really hard for me to learn because there was so much in me that said, it's just not a common understanding of that you have to nourish your one. Nobody's teaching you about that you're an energetic being. That's number one. So that you have an energy body as well as a physical body, and that energy body has needs that it needs to eat too, and how to feed it, and that it needs to eat frequently, just like your physical body has to eat. So that I had to learn that, and that was the journey. There was no books out there talking about that, at least that I had access to at that time. This is before YouTube was out, so I couldn't YouTube and find out some things now. I had to do this on my own, and I'm grateful that I did in a way, because in many ways I'm grateful that I did, because I know that 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 it's real, and I know what nourishes me, and I know the route that it takes to nourish ourselves, right? That's why I can help other people. And in also a way, I'm glad I know it now, because I can help people collapse the curve. This conversation, there was nobody having this conversation back then, but now here you have, and especially nobody that looked like me having this conversation. And now there's two people that look like me having this conversation on a platform that people can easily access. So that was another aspect of it. But yeah, nourishing ourselves was, and it's why it took why my journey took so long. People ask me sometimes, why did the second time take you so long to heal when you healed the first time in 3 months? Well, because it was that aspect of understanding, one, what loving ourselves really is, and then this aspect of nourishing myself. That was a vital piece, of getting love energy in, and that my body, it was also a vital piece to my wellness.
Okay, so everybody out there, rewind and listen to Jerome's whole section again, because he just shared. I've never heard it put that way, as far as, I mean, my goodness, how much we take for granted the energetic body, where, if you wouldn't just say, I'm not going to drink water or eat food today, then my goodness, like it's so true. And that's become non-negotiable for me, as far as, because I just don't take life for granted at all. And so the joys of life, like if anything sounds fun or exciting to me, like I'm just, if anybody invites me to anything, if I have even a slight bit of interest, like it doesn't even have to be like, oh, I'm really excited to do that. If it's even interest, like I'm going to live that out, because that typically leads to laughs and smiles and happiness and joy, by doing that. Like there's something there. So, but I've never heard it put like that. It's so true. Like if we wouldn't not eat food or drink water, why would we neglect ourselves from what is truly the larger part of ourselves? When all we can see is what we can see. That's so powerful. Re-listen to that whole section. We might have to make them come connect with you, in person, or to your YouTube page or books, or because I'll just keep picking your brain and let you share everything. Regardless, it's not going to be the longest. Like I put a podcast out the other day that was 2.5 hours. So I think we're about 2 hours and 15 at this point. But I mean, my goodness, it's just priceless information, all this stuff, priceless awareness. Forget the information, the actual aha light bulb moment where you can feel the truth, to our core is what, everything that we're talking about here is. It's awesome, because once the light bulb switches on these things, not only, are we going to be able to be wellness, who we truly are, things are so much more fun. It's so much more fun when your priority is just that, just to being, connected and to enjoying this life, no matter what circumstances or situations are current, knowing that that's already a manifestation of past, being disconnected. We've manifested what's current. So what's going to manifest going forward is the awareness that you have here because of episodes like this and, things like it, to where now we get to choose, okay, well, how do I want to live? Like, and, that's a great, powerful question to ask, and to be able to be connected to and receive. And definitely re-listen to this section right here on nourishment, because that's so important, to be able to ask ourselves, what are we passionate about? What do we feel most alive doing? I was asking, it was fun hearing you say that, Jerome, because I was just, it was making me happy, and I'm excited to do the things I'm doing. And at the same time, there's been parts of my world that I really, really love that I did a lot last year in 2019 that I haven't done as much this year. For example, I like to run on the beach and do that. And I still exercise. That's an important part of my life. Like I lift weights and all that. But there were many days last year where I go lift weights in the morning, then I go run on the beach in the afternoon, just like all these things. And I've been kind of neglecting the running on the beach because
Mm-hmm.
I've been recording podcasts and editing and doing stuff, which I love doing that stuff too. So it's not like I'm like robbing parts to do things that I don't like. Like everything that I'm doing, like I enjoy, but then at the same time, I want to do. We can do it all. So you've inspired me even in that. That's how I was listening. I was like, I want to start doing all that more, which I've been adjusting my schedule on purpose so that I can do more of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's we talked about earlier about how you have to reorient, like what's appropriate, right? What's most appropriate. And when the more you begin to tune into yourself and trust yourself, you listen to your callings, like what's really calling me right now. So the fact that you probably brought this up right now in this interview means it's calling you.
Mhm.
So that's something that you need to reorient so that you get more of that in,
Well, Jerome, I
right?
meet a lot of people when I'm running on, like when I say running on the beach, it's great for exercise, but I've made so many awesome connections just by bumping into people and having conversations when I'm out because people are in such a good mood, like it is the beach. So that's a part of my life that has been in 2020 so far, hasn't been as abundant at all. In fact, I haven't done it once in 2020. I'm like, man, we're now in the February.
Yeah. So this is the calling, right? It's calling you from internally because actually, since you actually spoke out about it, it's definitely calling. And it doesn't mean again so the question is what's appropriate. So how much time is appropriate for that? Like maybe it's once a week. Maybe what satiates you, what actually feeds you, is to get it in several times a week. Maybe it's once a month for you, but you will, like, that's the thing to sit down with when you're talking about what actually nourishes you and how to keep yourself nourished and how to keep your energy fed. Is just to understand what's really appropriate for you. So if the one step is, one, what are the things that feed you, and then what's the actual appropriate dosage of those things? It's just like food. So, I live for berries. Like, I love berries. I can eat them every day. And so for me, I like to eat them like, I have them for breakfast every day. But it's really not appropriate for me. I don't feel a calling to have them more than that. Like, I don't need to eat them 3 meals a day or more than once, but I have a big bowl of berries in the morning and I'm good and I'm set. When I don't have berries, if I go, more than 2 and 3 days, I feel some type of way. So that's where you have to learn, like, what's appropriate for you. Same thing with writing for me. Like, when I go a day without writing, I start to feel some type of depletion. So for me, I need to write every day. Now, that doesn't mean I need to write, if anybody follows me who's watching this, some of my writings are very long. Some of them are not. Sometimes I can just get in a little bit of short thing and that fuels me. Sometimes I have to get in a lot. So that's once you discover what is nourishing for you, the next thing to ask is what's the appropriate frequency for you to get that in.
Hmm. I appreciate that. That's great advice for me. I'm taking it because it's been a question that, and this is another great example of that. It's a question that I asked the universe, and all our questions, the universe doesn't even have to be like how many times a week, but it's like a question that I've been asking, like how can I do this something that I love more? Like how can I do everything that I'm
Mm-hmm.
inspired to do? And this has helped me a lot because I've been literally moved my workout schedule as far as going to the gym to the morning when typically it was late at night, because doing it late at night was like really not allowing me to do the part of what I was just describing. So I've already been like maneuvering stuff to where it's like I have to change some things so that I can be able to do everything that I like to do in the frequency that I want to do it in. So that's awesome advice. So
Yeah.
simple, but just for all of us, it's
Well, I
just
mean, that's love is simple, you
yeah.
guys. Love is not a complicated thing. It's the withholding of love that is complicated. But love the soul is a simple frequency, and getting back to it is simple. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's going to be some challenges because you got to, those patterns are going to kick in and all that other stuff. But love is a simple frequency.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, this is awesome, awesome conversation. should we leave it there, Jerome? I mean, my goodness, like I feel like we've given so much. Like this is an impactful episode for sure. I'm excited for everybody to experience this. Anything else you think that should be taught that you inspired to touch on?
I'll just leave it with this, that you said something that is just so, the more you love yourself, the more fun you start to have. Literally. Not just the healthier you're going to be, the more delicious life becomes. The more well you'll become and the more delicious life will become. It is literally worth anything you can invest in it. It is literally worth anything that you have to let go of to do it. It is worth your time and your energy to learn how to truly do it, because not only does your entire life depend on it, but your entire life becomes better because of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this life doesn't have to be it's not designed to, like when we were little babies, we didn't have the intention of having this life be a struggle and a stress. Like we had the intention of enjoying, and we could use the little babies as a reminder if we need one. Like I do this a lot. I'll be riding a bike on the boardwalk or something, and anytime some of our babies in the stroller, they're always looking up, and I always smile at them, and they always smile back. They're always aware. They're always present every time, and I make sure to get that little reminder, and I appreciate it every single time. So.
Yeah. This is the dimension of joy, and I know we're going to end on that, such a big statement, but I want to shatter some false premises we've been taught around what life is. But this dimension that we're in, this is the dimension of joy. And that's why we incarnated here. And you get to see that more and more the more you love yourself.
That's so powerful. That's good. I know that to be true. And I'm so happy that you said that. That's very, very powerful. For sure. I love it. That's awesome. You guys definitely connect with Jerome and be able to feel his writing, his speaking, everything that he's doing. Reach out if you're inspired to connect, whether you're coaching or anything. It's definitely a great next step on your journey. Definitely connect on social media. I'm so appreciative that we have that, so that we can now, experience what those of us that are inspired to share, with the intention of uplifting, and also because it feels good for us to share it, which is, twofold with this podcast and with everything. Is this conversation feels good to have, feels good to be able to speak this, because when we are connected with love and letting it flow out like that, the more that we do it, it just feels better and better and better. And you guys have experienced that, listening to this conversation, feeling the momentum of the energy. So definitely appreciative for you, Jerome, and for everybody out there. Definitely appreciative for all of you, even those of you that I haven't connected with yet. And we're all in this together, and definitely live in joy, live connected, and don't beat yourself up if you don't go from, having no awareness of any of this to like, you're not going to most likely just have it. Again, it's for any of us. For me, Jerome, it's not like something that is just ours like forever. You have to, it's just in the moment or not. Are we allowing ourselves to be it, to be love? And the most important part is if we can be aware of it, because then if we are, we can choose. And then it becomes a practice. And then you start to notice, which I love when I started noticing this, Jerome, stringing together days, like full days where I was connected all day. I'm like, man, it's been an awesome day. And it didn't have anything to do with because I had all these like external things going on. Maybe I did, maybe I had some awesome things happening, but there's just been days where I've just been connected all day, and just the simplest things that, I've done millions of other times, whether it be going to the gym or whatever. It was a different experience. It was a much more, fun and fulfilling experience. I had good conversations, there or on the way there or whatever the case may be. Going to the grocery store could be, we can go to the grocery store connected, being love, or we can go to the grocery store, not be connected and not being love. And it's a drastically different life experience. So it's fun to be aware, and it's fun to practice, and just life can be joy, like Jerome mentioned, if we allow ourselves to allow it to be that way. So that's awesome. I love it. But thank you, Jerome. I appreciate your time and your energy and doing the 2-part with us. We could not have gotten all this out in one part, obviously. And you guys out there, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Definitely share this episode and impact anybody on your social media or people that you know. I'm sure they will definitely appreciate it. And definitely reach out to me or Jerome if you have any questions about any of this stuff or want to connect further. Definitely follow on that inspiration, and sending you guys all positive vibes. And we'll talk to you guys soon in another episode. Have an amazing day whenever you hear this.
Thank you.
Awesome. Man, that was good. That was good stuff, Jerome.
Thank you.